help us track. For other meetings, it helps us.
What's going on, Buck?
As long as it's on your thing, you're good.
This was in, now all of a sudden it went out. Yeah, this, I had it up like that. I assume it's telling me to hit that? Start over? Yeah, I mean, it came up perfect. Now it's back up. I got it back up. Oh, I had it here, and then I come back and just brought it back up. I forgot what it said, but.
Good right now, so let me know if it gives me that.
Since then. So
How are you?
There's the fence line, they have their property already. And they went right next door, they bought up the neighboring property. But the fence line, acted what we call the hamlet. Say, well, we don't allow them to enter hamlets, but the town board approved it. Planning committee did.
Hey, Dwayne, got your message, but you sounded like you were out in the North Woods when I got your message.
Northwoods.
I don't know, it sounded like you were miles away on my answering machine anyway, but.
Hello.
I don't know why. I think it was calling you from home.
Oh, really? My answering machine is not the newest thing on earth anymore. But I keep that landline because I'm alone. They can find me in a phone.
Got several.
And I'll take money.
Then we've been doing
I think it's the answer. It's too bad for Taylor.
Next time I'll go try to stop it.
It's too bad for Taylor. He got started. But he must have got a.
We ride our bikes. Home for him, and there's only a couple miles past my place. And I was like, yeah, we went.
Use remote IP.
Please raise your hand if you need help logging into your tablet.
Settings. Yeah. Well, no, when you're like, here, when you come to work, come to the point where you gotta make sure it's done.
The other ones are already.
No, he won't do very insane. I know, maybe, I don't know why he's switched off on Wi-Fi. But that's what you do whenever you can't get a signal, just make sure it's remote.
Looking at this 50 million.
Yes, well, well, no, and something.
What's new, Russell?
I forget if it was, if,
I thought so.
George, get together? So I'll get together with you.
has,
I'm just gonna ask you, what are we gonna spend tonight? Like you show up, we just.
I don't mind that one yet, I like to have an outlook, somebody that can be calm by that. Right. Exactly.
We had my class speak at Kenny was just like class. I was on bar with that. Nice dad. He's happy not to.
Then it's just.
Guys go. And they were racing up and down the driveway, and then the city gets into
It was nothing. That was a hack. Everybody got it. So I got calls and emails.
Yeah, there's
That west side.
plan.
Somebody.
Somebody hacked it. No, that's happening. So anybody that called me or emailed just said, it's a hack.
Hey, how you doing? Jerry?
Second time.
Hi, Mary.
Alright, see if I can remember this thing.
I get all these emails, calls, and I'm really working.
I am running for urban.
Brought their son up going to go speak. And
Oh, I got a kid cat. On that, that's what they go real bad.
No, I think some of that was been started decision.
I also brought some. Give you the price, put it all up, but there's gonna be a lot of fencing. So these do we use again? Yeah, city. And work against the city. Township.
Okay, I'll call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. A roll call by the county clerk.
we have 26 present and 4 absent.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Could you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ms. Fitzgerald, would you lead us?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just take a brief moment to think about what you're going to do tonight. Please be seated. Before we proceed any further, I just want to thank everybody that called me or emailed me when they got that hack on our our email saying that I had an emergency job for somebody to do. I thank you for being there for me, but that was a hack. So if you got it, report it to the IT department. And that's the second time it's happened in the last 9 months. Okay, we're in compliance with open meetings law.
We are, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ben. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda. I would like to request that we switch special order of business and annual reports around, so those folks who give the annual reports don't have to sit through Ben's whole speech.
I'll make a motion with that, change.
Thank you. I have a second. Second by Mr. Morris. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. We'll make that small change. Approval of the July 12th, 2022 meetings. Mr. Winnick. Minutes.
Normally, the minutes are approved by the executive committee before coming to the board, but the executive committee didn't meet in July, so I have reviewed the minutes and will move approval of July 12th, 2022 minutes as presented.
I have a second, Mr. Gulig. Any additions, corrections, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. We have communications, treasurer's monthly report, which you should be on your desk, and then retirement recognitions. Any other communications, Madam Clerk? No. Retirement recognitions. And that will be Terry. Ms. Palm.
Good evening. Last month in July is normally when we would have presented the retirement recognition, so we are a little late on this, but I am pleased and proud to announce to you 8 of our retirees that have left Jefferson County but on to other careers sometimes throughout the last few months. I'm going to, first of all, just go over those who are not able to be with us tonight, and then we do have, I think, 3 individuals here that I will call up in just a few minutes. So first is Maureen Browning. She was a community outreach worker with Human Services, although not with the county very long, just over 2 years. She did have a substantial impact. She worked not only as a community outreach worker, but also at the Leader House as a group home worker. If any of you are aware of the some of the challenges that maybe go along with that, it's a 24/7 operation, and her assistance was greatly appreciated there. We have Rebecca or Becky Owen. She was a deputy sheriff with the Sheriff's Department for over 24.5 years. Kevin Riley, who was at Human Services, he held a number of positions there, and when he retired after 26 years of service, he was the compliance officer there. Dwayne Amacher, who was also a deputy with the sheriff's office. He was had the pleasure, I guess, of serving not only in the jail and patrol, but also when he retired in support services. And he was with the sheriff's office for over 26 years, or roughly 26 years. And then Cherie Beam, she was a sergeant with the sheriff's office when she retired in support services and was there for 28 years. So it's a theme every time I'm up here speaking with you that you will hear that most of the individuals, they retire with over 20 years of experience. So not only the recruitment and retention of filling these positions, but just in regards to the institutional knowledge that so much that they have that we are losing. And with that, I'd like to recognize the 3 individuals that I see that are here. I'd like to start with Mary Welter. If you could come forward, please. Mary was worked in the accounting division, protective payee at Human Services for just over 17 years. I'd like to read just a little something that Kathy Colley submitted to me, and then just a little something that I have to say about Mary. Mary Welter worked diligently for 17 years for Human Services, serving the needs of our department and clients in many ways, most notably and excellently as a protective payee. She oversaw financial planning and disbursement for a large number of clients, ensuring a work with auditors, social workers, tax preparers, and Social Security representatives. In addition to being flexible and responsive to many demands of the job, no one paid more attention to detail than Mary. We were always to rely on her exceptional and accurate work. One other thing I'd like to say about Mary is her patience. I started here just a little before Mary did, and if any of you have worked with Human Services, they have so many different positions and different types of work that they do, and I'm still learning different things about things that they do. But I remember I wasn't here very long. I had the pleasure to meet with Mary. She may not remember this, but she took the time to meet with me about what she did in her accounting and protective payee functions, which gave me a better understanding of the complex duties that they truly have. When I went to school and you think of accounting, it's credit, debit, and that's it, check it off. That is nothing like what they go through there. So I really do give credit to all the work that you have done, and thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure working in 17 years and meeting a lot of people and the various social workers and clients. So I just thank everyone on the county board for this recognition.
Thank you.
For our next individual, I would ask Captain Mays if you could come forward to present to our next retiree, Detective Chad Garcia. Chad, if you'd like to step forward, please.
So Chad, the sheriff apologized for not being here today. He's down in Missouri for some pre-planned training, and I see that you've got a beard, so you liking that?
I am.
After 27 years, you couldn't have one with us, could you? Looks good on you. So Chad Garcia retired after 27 years with the sheriff's office and 1 month, retired as a detective sergeant for us. He's one of the few individuals that actually worked in all 4 of our divisions. So communications, jail, patrol, and investigations as well. So that hasn't happened before, I don't believe so, has it? One thing that Chad loves to do is ride motorcycles. I believe you just got back from Route 66. How many miles did you put on?
Over 6,000.
Yeah. Yeah, and how many days?
19. Route 66 up Pacific Coast Highway and then Highway 2 back home.
Yeah, so Chad here thought it was a great idea to start the Iron Seat Club, I think it was.
No, just participant of the Iron Butt.
Yeah. I was using seat, but that's all right. But I believe that they would do a day trip, and I got asked one time if I wanted to do it, and I said, "Where are you going?" And you said,
Well, I don't remember which one. Was it the state of Wisconsin one?
"No, North Dakota, I think."
Oh, North Dakota.
Yeah.
I'll go North Dakota and back.
Yeah, we're going to go to North Dakota and come back. I go for a weekend? No, in a day. I'll sit that one out. But what I do remember with Chad is that we worked second shift together in the detective division, and I could always count on him in September or October to let me know what my on-call weekends were going to be for the next year. So I do appreciate that. But here's a certificate of recognition for you in the county, and it's plaque for you. There you go, sir.
Thank you. It was an awesome career, very rewarding. I was lucky to work in all the divisions and meet a lot of great people that truly come to work caring about the people in this county. Thank you.
I do think that Chad left off that, we do have retirees that come back and work in our support services department often, so you can make that. And our last individual I'd like to recognize tonight is Ann Jensweld from the Highway Department. And for those that are here supporting Ann, because she had a lot of fans there, if you could stand up and just wave, we have. No, there's a few more. So, Bill also gave me just a little bit to say about Ann, and then I have a few more things that I can add to that. So Ann worked with the highway department for over 28 years. She was in their accounting position there. She was always a friendly face at the front office for visitors at the highway department, always very welcoming for all new employees to the department, and she made herself available to help any employee in any way she could. She had a great working relationship with Wisconsin DOT, the accounting staff there, and other external departments, and she is greatly missed for her almost 30 years of dedication to the highway department. And I just want to add, in regards to the help that she was always a liaison there for human resources, I guess is how I could say it. If somebody needed a leave of absence or had a question about benefits or anything like that, I think most of the time people would go through Ann kind of as that person that they know they could trust in order to come to human resources to get their answer. So we really greatly appreciate her help in that role too, helping us out. So Ann, thank you very much. And we have a plaque for you as well. You have a few words you want to say to the group?
Just like to thank everyone for the recognition and thank you for the opportunity for being able to work with all of you and all the great employees through the years. Thank you very much.
I did find out it's not really retirement. She's starting another career. So she is going on to school for certified pharmacy technician.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
If retirees would like to join me outside, I'll grab a
Thank you very much to all retirees. Now it's public comment. Do we have a list? Okay, we have two for public comment at this point. The other one is a non-agenda item, which will go at the end. So first of all, and we have 3 minutes each, is Tom Williams from Concord.
Hello, thank you all for the opportunity to speak. I'm here tonight to oppose a resolution to disallow notice of claim filed by Defend Town Plans against the county in a zoning decision. This is why I feel this is an important topic and why it should not be just swept under the rug to make it convenient. The town of Concord is not a zoning authority in its own right. And as such, it's not subject to legal action to force its town board to make zoning decisions consistent with its own comprehensive land use plan. If a town board ignores recommendations and advice from its own planning committee, whether through ignorance or disinterest or conflict of interest, such as the favoritism or financial motivation, any number of reasons, but they make a zoning decision not in agreement with their own comprehensive plan, there must be a way to assure that the decisions, there must be a way or a mechanism in place that to either reject that decision or require an amendment to the town's comprehensive plan so that the decision is not contrary to that plan. As a zoning authority over our town, mechanism for that is the Planning and Zoning Committee and the County Board of Supervisors for Jefferson County. There is a process in place for amending a comprehensive plan so that decisions otherwise contrary to the plan may be made in accordance to the plan. But the plan must be modified before that ruling can be made. You cannot approve a change first and then scramble to change the plan to fit that change. If there's no enforcement to correct decisions contrary to comprehensive plan, then what is the point of having a process to change the plan? And for that matter, what is the point of having a plan, comprehensive plan at all? And this is not just an issue for Concord. This issue probably will, it certainly could and probably will affect all of your towns or villages or any community which is not its own zoning authority. So I'm asking the county supervisors and you, the members of the Planning and Zoning Committee, to review your comprehensive plan and your farmland preservation plan and verify that it does in fact state that rezoning requests must follow all relevant plans. So that is the county's plan and the town's plan. Thank you.
And then we have Mary Beth Peranto, attorney for the Defend the Town Boards. She is online and she has 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am also speaking to agenda item 12A. This is a proposed resolution for denial of Defend Town Plan's notice of claim. I want to make a note that this claim is not for monetary damages. It's simply an objection to the board's April decision to rezone land in the town of Concord out of the A1 exclusive ag zoning district. In my discussions with Corporation Counsel, a question arose whether this could validly be considered because isn't the request actually a request to rezone back into A1 exclusive ag, and that is not the case. It's simply asking the board to recognize that the previous attempt to rezone this property from A1 to A2 is just not operative because the state's statutory requirements were not followed. It's also important to note that this does not involve the board or the planning committee's exercise of discretion or issues of substantial evidence, anything of that nature. It's purely a question of whether the attempted rezone was done according to the procedure set forth in the statute. The A1 zoning designation is a state-certified farmland preservation zoning district. Accordingly, there are specific procedural steps that have to be taken in order to remove that land from that A1 designation. The statutory provision is section 91.48 entitled Rezoning Land Out of a Farmland Preservation Zoning District. This requires the county to make 5 specific findings of fact. The one which the claimants are most concerned about, of course, is the finding that the rezone was consistent with the county's comprehensive plan, but let's leave that aside for the moment. There's nothing in the record, either the audio of the hearing, the committee's deliberations, or the minutes of either proceeding that makes these required 5 findings. So setting aside questions about whether the committee or the board could conceivably make those findings, it's clear the findings were not made at all. Those findings have to be expressed on the record. Notably, the county ordinance in section 1111 goes further and requires the rezone to meet 4 additional criteria in addition to the state required 5 findings. None of those findings were made. So the claim here involves correcting a plain legal error. It should not require citizens to resort to litigation to ensure that the county follows state mandated procedures. Those procedures are included in the county's own ordinance. So the original rezone petition should be renoticed, should be reheard, and it should be decided according to the procedure set out in section 91.48 of the state statutes. I thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Which takes us to item annual reports. So that first one, County Clerk, Ms. McGraw.
Hello, I am Audrey McGraw, Jefferson County Clerk. I always get nervous when I have to come and stand up here in front of all of these people, but when Steve said that we got to go home after this, before Ben's presentation, it made things a lot easier for me. So, just kidding. I won't spend a lot of time on my report. I still think that we are trying to build up from 2020. Our marriage licenses seem to be going in the right direction. Love is definitely in the air. Passports are still down as compared to 2018, 2019, almost double compared to 2020. So I'm hoping once the airlines get everything figured out, people will want to travel a little bit more. My office does marriage license interviews for couples so that they can get their marriage license, which is always a funny word to me because it's not like we could tell them that after careful consideration, we've chosen someone else. So, you know, we have to give them the marriage license no matter what. July 1st, there was a law change that anyone in the state of Wisconsin could come into our office to apply. So I think that that has definitely helped as well. People definitely price shop, and we're kind of right in the middle. So it's a good spot for us as far as the money and as far as where we are located. We also do DMV and can issue DNR licenses. That is dwindling a little bit just because you can do that all online. So it's not a huge money maker for us, but it's just more of a courtesy to the citizens. The passport acceptance agency, we have 3.5 certified acceptance agents in my office. And what we do is we take the paperwork, we take the supporting documents, we can also take photos. So it's kind of a one-stop shopping. We have been doing really, really well in that area. And I just want to share a little bit of the results from an audit that we had. I believe it was at the end of June that it was done. The first part, it says the Jefferson County Clerk's Office is part of a small group of passport application acceptance facilities throughout Wisconsin to receive a perfect score on the Acceptance Facility Oversight Acceptance Facility Review Report. Your acceptance facility oversight inspection included one-on-one interviews with the facility manager, inspections of facility space and security features, as well as real-time observations of acceptance agents accepting and executing passport applications from the general public. With over 700 facilities in the Chicago Passport Agency's region having undergone the same rigorous assessment, it is no small feat to be recognized as one of the best. So that was definitely a proud parent moment for me. Other than that, I don't really have much else to say. I have been here just about 22 years and learned something new almost every day. So it's been fulfilling.
Any questions for Audrey? Thank you very much, but you have to stay. Then the Health Department, Ms. Elizabeth Chilson. She was unable to be at the last meeting due to a family matter, so she is giving a report tonight.
I think I was always scheduled for this one. Okay. I am Elizabeth Chilson. I'm the director with the Health Department, and I'm really grateful that Audrey came up here and spoke about how she was also nervous because I was afraid I was going to be the only one. I'm going to talk about some of the brief highlights of 2021 across our 9 divisions in our department. To start off, our administration division continued to lead the COVID-19 response. We generally have about 16 employees. Throughout 2021, we had up to 63 different employees. So our administration program had to take on a lot. Our clinical services division, despite the challenges and limitations with COVID-19, still were able to provide 429 immunizations to 253 different clients. Vaccination rates across the nation are decreasing, so it's very important that we were still able to provide those services. Our maternal and child health division, specifically our WIC program, saw an 81.7% incident rate for breastfeeding compared to the state average of 69.9%. Breastfeeding services and supporting it and promoting it are a great importance, especially as we saw earlier this year, the formula shortage. So we are very proud of that. Our Mental Health and Substance Misuse Division partners with Human Services, and we provided 918 services to 836 consumers. With all of the challenges and trials and tribulations of COVID-19, it was important to still be able to provide those services. Our Community Health Division provided the technical assistance for all of the school districts and daycares to complete their required school immunization report. So again, that's another way that we can assure children are getting access to vaccinations and being vaccinated. Our Emergency Preparedness Division was where we were finally able to put all of our planning into practice, things we hopefully don't have to do often, but that was where we were able to provide mass clinics of COVID-19 vaccinations. We administered 11,247 vaccinations, and we had over 400 volunteers working with us, and it was no easy feat. Our lead division followed up on 542 children that were screened for elevated blood lead levels. Keep in mind, there was also a national shortage and a recall on lead testing, so we definitely saw challenges in that division. Our Communicable Disease Division, as you can assume, focused heavily on COVID-19. We followed up with 5,617 confirmed COVID cases, but we also followed up with 290 additional confirmed other communicable disease cases as well. Our Environmental Health Division conducted 17 human health hazards and continued to complete the pre-inspection and inspections of facilities in our county. And then lastly, our department hosted a COVID-19 resiliency ceremony. This was where we had the opportunity to recognize those who have lost their lives and recognize the hardships and the losses that our community members, businesses, and partners alike faced throughout COVID-19. And we also celebrated the resiliency of our community as a whole and everything we've been through over the past several years. I am really excited to continue on with the department. I thank you all for the opportunity of sharing all of the highlights.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Any questions for Elizabeth? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Library Services. Mr. Robinson.
Good evening. My name is Eric Robinson. I'm the library director in Fort Atkinson. I'm also the resource sharing librarian for the county. Basically, what that means is to help the directors and the folks on that board coordinate events and planning. So just to give you a really quick overview of some of the services that we've developed over the last year or so, especially coming out of COVID. I know some of the libraries were very proud of this in 2020, and we didn't really have an opportunity to talk about this, but we had been some of the very first libraries in the state to reopen during COVID. And that was largely a result of just some of the support we found at the health department through the county and other resources. So we were only closed for just a handful of weeks, really. But like many of you, a lot of our programs and events and just our way of life has changed radically, where in 2021, we started to see a rise in what you would typically think of a library, our circulation and things like that, and the usage of the building. Many of us have spaces which all of our communities use for a variety of events, and just either they're social events. We have, some folks that like to get together and just play games together, or there's book clubs, or there's actual like AAUW and other like groups that are doing work in these buildings. One of the things that's been kind of remarkable in the last year is you think of shared workspaces, if you've heard about them in and around some communities. The library I work in, just to give you some concept of this, at 10 a.m. typically we would never see anybody in their 20s or 30s. Now it's largely routine, and our large reading room is filled with that because we used to use about 150 gigabytes of data for Wi-Fi in a month. We use over a terabyte now. So part of that, though, goes to the county, again, helping to support us through things like Wi-Fi hotspots that we check out to families, because about 33% of our patrons or our users or customers, they're folks that live in Hebron and Koshkonong and just all the surrounding areas. So they're, the struggle of rural internet is a true thing. So days when I know something happened to somebody's transformer somewhere, people start pouring in to use our Wi-Fi and a lot of other things like that. So the buildings and the spaces that we have for community spaces are still really deeply loved. One example, Peg Jakai is here with us tonight. She's the director at Watertown. They began their remodel for their library, which is now completed. It's, if you haven't had a chance to go there, it's a remarkable building. It has a lot of shared services that are in those spaces too. So it's more than just books and movies and things like that nowadays. The last couple things I'll point out is, like many of us, I have 2 young kids. So streaming services obviously have begun to really flourish when it comes to movies and music and things like that. So in April 2021, we rolled out something called Hoopla. So it's streaming movies, music, graphic novels, a variety of products like that. So a lot of our users are using them to their fullest capacity now. And Overdrive, which is audiobooks and ebooks, are understandably at all-time highs. So even though the spaces are still well used and loved, like many of us, we all have our phones, and some of us even listen to podcasts at 1.5 speeds on the way they're commuting, stuff like that. So that's just sort of a transition I think a lot of our communities are going to start to have to think about and deal with. It's just more than just the traditional book anymore. But last couple things that have sort of changed just a little bit. Some of the libraries had started up story walks. So in your communities, you might have seen librarians putting books, they were actually cutting books up and putting them page by page on the sidewalk outside the building when the libraries were closed. So in some communities, those have turned into permanent story walks, like where they've partnered with Parks and Rec, and they're places that you can go and visit and books get changed all the time. I went to a senior center once, glossing past story walks, thinking they would have absolutely no interest in it. And at one point I got to the end and they said, "Are you going to tell everybody your story walk's going into a park?" And I was like, "Do you guys go to this?" And they're like, "Yes, all the time." So things like that are really wonderful, but also explore passes, which are basically passes for free for families or individuals to go to the Milwaukee Zoo or the Children's Museums in Madison and Milwaukee. If you've not taken children, it's remarkably expensive. So you could take these passes and you basically can get in for free. So a lot of those are things that are sort of changing where we're trying to provide experiences for individuals in our different communities. And because we're still dealing with just sort of the connection of different groups in all of our communities who don't necessarily come into public buildings are still not comfortable with it. All of us do a remarkable amount of home delivery still, or we go to senior centers and bring materials there. We bring large print materials for them to just keep, and then we refresh that pretty consistently. And I think that is all that I can think of off the top of my head.
You want to talk about the iPads that you 2 helped us with?
Yeah, sure. So there's just 2 of us. I didn't want to gloat, but
both are here.
But a few of our libraries were asked to partner with basically a judge locally that had gotten some funding, and so we're providing iPads for individuals and families, or sort of if they need to do remote, basically trials. So individuals can come into our library and privately sort of meet with the judge remotely and go through different things. We've also partnered with the renewal of driver's license when there's been individuals have rather complicated driver's license renewals, not like you and I who probably don't want to go stand in a DMV line necessarily, but they've actually lost their license and have really serious issues wrapped up with that. We have law students from UW-Madison that will physically come into the library and they will work with those individuals too. So we're trying to do a variety of things like that, or even partnering with the Jefferson County Literacy Council to provide spaces for tutoring and classes to happen. So if you haven't been to a library recently, I'd welcome you to come in. You might be a little surprised at some of the stuff we have available right now. Any questions?
Any questions for Eric? Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And lastly, on the Literacy Council, we have Pamela Waters.
Hello, my name is Pamela Waters, and I'm just transitioning into a leadership role at Jefferson County Literacy Council, and I'd like to thank the board for an opportunity to update you on our most recent fiscal year, which ended June 30th of 2022. So last year we served 100 individuals, split evenly between our family, adult literacy program and our correctional education program. In our family adult literacy program, 50 individuals represent 11 different communities in Jefferson County. Many come to just boost their literacy skills or to gain confidence, but we do track outcomes. So we welcomed 3 new citizens through our program. 2 individuals earned their GED, and 9 individuals showed a skill gain of a measurable skill gain in math or reading. And what that means is that they grew more than 2 grade levels. So that's our community family adult literacy. Another arm of that is supporting family literacy through our community partners. And a highlight of our most recent year was sharing digital book subscriptions with families with children enrolled in Head Start, and also with adults, justice involved adults with children in Jefferson County. So our correctional education program is the only AEFLA funded program in the state that's community based. It's one of the strongest programs, and it wouldn't be the strongest without the support of the county and the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. The figures are not set yet, but it's safe to say that it's possible we might be the strongest program in the state of Wisconsin. The support from the county is not just financial, it's tech support, and the Sheriff's Department provides staffing for a certified test administrator inside the jail, which makes a huge difference. So what that means is that we have some great positive outcomes to share. 38 GED tests were administered in the jail, 5 individuals earning their GED in Jefferson County, and 1 individual set up to complete 1 final test after being transferred to another facility. Over the past 2 years, we were able to offer continuous programming, switching between virtual and in-person as necessary. We also added an integrated education training program, which is workplace safety. Last year, we had 17 individuals earn that OSHA credential inside the Jefferson County facility. Outside of those 2 measurable gains, there's also, we track academic gains in reading and math, and 11 individuals showed more than 2 grade levels of growth in reading or math. So our focus going forward for the horizon for 2022-23 is that the demands on we largely use volunteer instructors or tutors. The demands for tutors have just gone through the roof. We need more volunteers. The skill set that the volunteers and the flexibility are greater than they were before. Most of our tutors and our learners are requesting partnerships as opposed to small classes because they are safer. We have 33 partnerships ready to go forward for this fall. So that is our focus, our major focus for this coming year is training and recruiting and retaining those volunteer instructors or tutors. Our second is that we would like to establish a permanent, a stable, consistent location and hours in the greater Watertown area. We have offered services in the Watertown area for many years using community partners in a variety of locations, and we would like to establish a place where we can have a staff and set hours in that area to serve the needs of those people. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Pamela?
I don't have those. What I'm talking about when I talk about a measurable skill gain is because we are an AEFLA funded program, we have 3 measures of skill gains. One is earning a GED credential, and that is administered through the technical college system. So it's GED.com. Those tests are administered electronically, which is why it's so beneficial for us to have a test administrator in the jail. So that's one way to record a measurable skill gain. Another way to record a measurable skill gain is to offer a workplace training program, which is the OSHA program that we offer. And the third one is there is a test of adult basic education. And when an individual comes into the program, they are pre-tested. And when they exit the program, they are post-tested. And that's where we measure those measurable skill gains in reading or math, whether or not they're involved in the GED program or not. Does that answer your question?
Maybe we can you and Pam can have this conversation, because actually this question is for the board supervisors at this point, so it's actually out of order. But I'm certainly she'd be more than willing to answer your questions. Yes,
Yeah,
you bet.
please reach out if you have questions. I'd be happy to answer them or find the answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Takes us to item 9. Special order of business. Mr. Waymire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So our goal for item number 9 is to really tackle 2 items on your agenda tonight as updates. The first one relates to what's going to be on the agenda next, and that's really the final review and acceptance of contracts, bids of the courthouse jail sheriff project. And the second item relates to the updates on the financing, which ties to the budget, related to issuing a debt, which is found under the Finance Committee section, and the updated numbers on that in terms of impacts of the potential sale of debt and what does that look like entirely. And so first thing, we did send the packets out with the rough draft of the resolution last week and bid tabs. Correction was sent out this morning, but it was handed out is on the blue is the updated resolution. The 2 main changes in this resolution versus what was put in the packets last week is number 1, it summarized the action of the joint committee yesterday of the Finance Committee and the Building and Grounds Committee. The second thing it did is there were 2 alternative add-ons that were discussed yesterday, and the committees are recommending accepting both alternative bids related to that. So those are the main changes, and the other part was some of the cost impacts and what does that budget look like. So those were the main things that were included in there, and we'll kind of briefly talk through each item of the resolution so you're aware what it is. So I'm not going to go through the executive summary. It's self-explanatory in terms of some of the history related to the project itself, but we want to make sure there's a good continuity of what's taken place for several years related to this project, in some cases dating back to 2005 with some of the original studies that were done on what to do with this facility. And then we also go through some of the legislative history that's taken place by the county board since the end of 2019 going to 2020 and where we're at today. So in the below here, you'll see the final bid tabulation of all the bids. There's a total of 19 bid packages that were issued. There's an Exhibit A1 and Exhibit A2 are the overall bids that were received. So it's listed in the resolution, all the lowest qualified bidders. So a couple of notes on that. So number 1, you'll notice the very first one is excavation and site utilities, a bid package number 1. We did not receive any bids initially for this bid quote. So we have already issued the requirements for bids out. They are due on September 1st, and Building and Grounds Committee is scheduled to have a meeting at the same time so they can review those bids. As part of what is being recommended by the committee tonight is the county board will delegate to the Building and Grounds Committee that they may accept the lowest qualified bid in that case. And part of the reason that's being recommended, as you know, we're doing some additions. The very first thing we do additions is digging in the ground. That's what this bid package would take care of. So from a sequencing standpoint. So that's part of what that is. I mean, we do, as you look at the budget, you'll see we have a placeholder in place from a budget that's already been totaled. Number two, I want to point out, relates to the electrical bid package below. As bid package number 17. And we are recommending Next Electric. There were 2 bids that were received in this package. One of the bidders did submit voluntary alternatives. Our engineer, electrical engineer, reviewed that, and it was basically switching out some copper connections for aluminum. Their recommendation is they stick with the copper for a variety of reasons. Even though it is might be cheaper at this point in time to install aluminum, based on the needs of the facility, they recommend sticking with copper, specifically because a good chunk of this facility is a 24-hour, 365 facility. There's concerns to ensure it's the reliability related to it. The other concern is some of the conduit, because of us getting spaces within the roof line here, some of the aluminum conduit is bigger. And so in some spaces that might not work in the design space, because above this ceiling, you don't have the space newer buildings may have that might work. The other thing is, when the connections are made, there's also concerns of how the maintenance might be on an ongoing basis that have to be maintained more frequently than a copper connection. So the recommendations from the design engineers, we stick with what was in the bid spec, stick with the bid-based bid, and as a result, that the lowest qualified bidder is Next Electric. And then finally, the other one that as you look at the bid tab, and this was an updated bid tab because we recognized the numbers didn't change, but the names were not provided to you last week when the packet went out. And this is for the abatement contract in the facility. We are recommending going with Robinson Brothers, and it has determined they are the lowest qualified responsive and qualified bidder. You'll see a number that looks lower in the line item, but it has been determined by our consultant EMC and Corporation Counsel that they did not responsive to the total bid package for a variety of reasons. So we are recommending going with Robinson Brothers, which was roughly $15,000 more than that other bid that was submitted. So these are the recommendations that we have, and this is what you'd be authorizing us from a contractual standpoint to move forward with. How this will work is Moss Brothers, as the construction manager, will actually hold all the contracts, and they'll work with all the subcontracts going forward. And from a county standpoint, our costs will go directly to Moss Brothers, but we'll see every single receipt payable for each subcontractor as we go forward. As we talked through it with the Finance Committee and Building Grounds Committee, we'll have a report every month before that is released from a payments perspective. That includes the architect will review and verify that the work is being said as done, has been completed to their satisfaction before it's paid out, plus a retention process. So, and then on Exhibit B, I'm going to quick stop share so I can reshare this because it's on a different document. It relates to the budget. And as you see in some of the numbers, they have grown a little bit, and some of it's inflation is real. And we had planned back when we presented this in April of 21, that the number was approaching probably this 9% of 45.4 million all in. And at that point in time, we did not include increases also for AV and fixtures, et cetera. And so we've had a lot of conversations of where do we see the environment go. And so a snapshot and point is we pointed to the committees yesterday was the Department of Administration for the state. They gave guidance related to inflations to all the state agencies for capital projects. For planning purposes, they are requesting until the end of 2023, every 6 months, starting today, an 8% increase is added. So think about where we're at today, 2023, roughly 18 months, roughly 24% increase is what their expectation is based on those numbers. Starting in 2024, they're expecting to go to 4% every 6 months inflationary increase from their budgetary standpoint. And finally, they're asking for a 15% contingency. So that's their state guidance and what they're seeing from a state bid process. So as you look at the budget, the column on the right is what we last presented, and then the column on the left is the updated cost with the true cost below. We've tried to make this as apples to apples as we can, where past budgets have presented over the course of the last 2 years. In some cases, you see some shifts. So an example is on-site utilities. We have a number here. In previous budgets, was considered in the initial construction costs, just so we're not, it's very clear to everybody where those numbers are at today. So the total actual construction with about a 9% plus contingency is about $42.7 million today. This line down here is all our soft costs, which includes all our architect and engineer cost, our testing, our moving cost. We do have temporary offices. You see one of our new facilities across the street. If you haven't been here lately, with the trailer that we were able to procure very cost effectively. We'll be renting facilities in other part of the counties, and that staff is getting ready to move in the next 6 weeks for this north wing. Winter construction costs, some temp cooling cost. And then we have to make some interim space. So an example, when we start this project, where the hearing rooms are scheduled to go in phase 1 is where our clerk of courts lobby is. So we still need a space that's secured for clerk of courts. So we have to remodel a space so they can properly serve and be adjacent to the courts and administer their statutory duties as well. The one thing we also are not going to bid on yet, as we're waiting for the Department of Corrections to finalize and approve it, is within our outdoor facility. So included in the quote is all the concrete work of the outdoor facility. So the slab on grade, the drainage for that facility, and the outer masonry walls included in the quote. What we have to do per DOC specs is build a wall within a wall that's not climbable. And so there's a placeholder for what we believe that cost would be. Asbestos abatement. Now this includes some of the consulting and testing fees, which is not included in that lowest bid that we showed. So understand that's an all-in cost of what that looks like. And then in previous budgets, we talked a little bit about the audio visual, FF&E, and then eventually paving the main lot and adding a storm sewer system. And so all in, we've provided all the updated funding sources. As most of you are aware, you have already issued $8 million in debt last year. And you have said we will issue up to $36 million for this project. This budget will not ask for any additional debt to be issued. We also reallocated American Rescue Plan Act dollars of about $8.35 million, working cash $2.635 million, and then some working capital, which really is geared towards the contingency in case it's needed, about $2.9 million. We're pretty healthy with where we feel we're at there right now to help move this forward in case it is needed. The two alternatives that were added was at $270,000 for some skylights in the green roof. So the fiscal note that you have in your packet is updated based on all these changes that took place. The one thing I do want to point out is from how the budget works is through the budget process already, the county has appropriated $10.635 million in this current fiscal year. That should be sufficient funds to pay for the soft costs plus the construction draw that we're expecting to begin in September. The remainder will be part of our ongoing capital budget that we introduced as part of the 2023 budget going forward. The other thing a couple things I want to point on here too is we've also engaged with 3 other vendors, technical experts to help us with various aspects of this too that we've consulted with, and we wanted for the record they were part of this. This includes Pro Audio. They were recommended by the 3rd District Court. 3rd District Court is like our administrative oversight for this region. Right now it's based out of Waukesha County, but includes Waukesha, Ozaki, Washington, Dodge, and ourselves. But this is a company that has really helped with the AV needs of courts, as that's quickly changing as well. We also reached out to AVI, who has a state contract, and they chose not to give us a quote related to these services. We are also using EMC, Environmental Materials Consulting, that's out of Lake Mills. They have helped us with all the testing requirements, the bid specs related to the abatement, and also do the post-testing once the remediation has taken place. And finally, M&M Furniture, who is on the state bid contract, will be helping us with the furniture analysis that needs to take place as part of this project. The last part that has been discussed is looking at what happens when there's change orders and the authority related to that level. And below is the recommendations coming from the committees based on various conversations. This is all based on the assumptions within the overall appropriation of the budget. So that includes that contingency number. If it exceeds that appropriation, obviously that's got to come back through the finance committee and the county board. So anything up to $100,000 would come through my office. Change orders from 100 to 200 would be co-signed by myself and the finance director. Change orders that are greater than 200 up to 400 would be authorized by myself, the finance director, along with working with the county board chair, the building and grounds committee chair, and finance committee chair. And these will all be reported back to the committees accordingly. And then finally, I just want to briefly talk about the fiscal impacts, because this does come up. and Joe Murray's online too as we prepare to set the sale of the final bonds, and a couple changes that have taken place. For those of you who remember, and since we have some new board members, we initially were trying to set this up when interest rates were lower, that we do what's called bank qualified debt over a series of years. Bank qualified debt says you can't go up to $10 million. If you do that, it changes the ratio, and typically it's an additional 25 to 50 basis points. If you've been watching the news with the feds, obviously the interest rates are changing quickly on everybody, and that includes municipal bond rates. And so the decision was made, it was thought to be most cost effective that we look at issuing it all today and save those dollars that we anticipate increasing with those interest costs in the long term. So with that being said, we don't see significant change related to tax impacts. That's already taken place, and we have grown about 18% from last year to this year in our assessed valuation. This is from a variety of reasons, and it went to about $9.8 billion. We had 3 significant tax increment financing districts expire, 2 in Johnson Creek and 1 in Whitewater. We also saw net new construction, and then also we saw some of the natural evaluation and assessments change as well. So the mill rate for debt for this project goes from what was 0.44 to 0.43 going to next year, including that new issues of debt. The number for the debt on this project for a $250,000 home on average went from roughly $80 to $63. But the bigger figures, when we look at the long-term cost of debt, was originally $1,200 over 20 years. It's $1,000 now at this point in time. So obviously we're going to continue to try to find ways to drive that down. Those are just projections at this point in time. So those are the main things that took place in the last few weeks, where the actual numbers are at, where the contracts we're asking to be approved, the costs related to it, the updated budget that we're asking to be appropriated tonight. As I mentioned, we do have Ellers is online, Joe, if there's specific questions right now, and he'll also be available when we set the sale bond resolution. We also have Moss Brothers here. We also have Potter Lawson here as well tonight. So if there's any specific questions related to anything we talked about or have been talked about the last 18 plus 2 years, please let us know.
Thank you, Mr. Waymeyer. Any questions for Mr. Waymeyer or our contractors that are here? Mr. Kennard.
Yes, if we lock this in tonight, does this mean we've got a hard cost on this, or is we still looking at, pretty soon we'll be at 60 million or 75 million, or where are we going?
So the costs you're seeing tonight are the actual bids. And once you give us the authority to contract with them, those are locked in. Now there's a couple of those, if we don't lock them in tonight, we expect they will change on us.
Other questions? No other questions? Thank you, Mr. Waymeyer.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you to all our contractors for being here. The possibility of questions. Which takes us to item 11, Buildings and Grounds Committee. Mr. Backlund.
Resolution number 2022.
30.
That's the blue sheet.
Thank you. Resolution number 2022-30, awarding bids, approval of final budget, project budget, and ratification of professional service agreements for Jefferson County Courthouse, Sheriff's Office, and Jail. Executive summary. Over the last 20 years, various studies have been conducted relating to long-term needs of county facilities, including the courthouse and adjoining Sheriff's Office and Jail. The most recent studies took place in 2005, 2014, and 2020. In 2014, the county continued to evaluate its long-term needs through an independent consult. This 2014 evaluation concluded that many of the components within the county facilities have reached their end of life, specifically the mechanical, plumbing, and electrical systems. Based on these studies and reports, both the Task Force on Operations and Organizations, the county strategic plan, and comprehensive plan determined that there is a need to update county facilities to include the courthouse, sheriff's office, and jail. In addition to the mechanical, plumbing, and electrical concerns, significant portions of Jefferson County facilities do not comply with current law and regulations such as the Americans with Disabilities Act, fire and safety codes, including lack of a sprinkler system and proper alarm notification system, Wisconsin Supreme Court rules related to judicial operations, and Department of Corrections requirements related to the jail safety and security. Additionally, many of the mechanical, plumbing, and electrical systems have reached their end of service life, making them difficult and expensive to repair. The county engaged the professional services of Potter Lawson in 2020 to evaluate the long-term needs of county facilities, including the courthouse and adjoining sheriff's office and jail. After Potter Lawson's initial evaluation, the county board authorized the county administrator to contract with them on June 8, 2021 and July 13, 2021 for construction design services. On September 14, 2021, the county board engaged Moss Brothers as construction manager. In January 2022, the county board authorized expanding the scope of this project to include the law enforcement center, specifically related to jail operations. And on April 4, 2022, the county board formally approved the final updated design and budget for this project. The budget included an inflationary increase of about 18% from the schematic design phase of the budget. On August 10th, 2021, Jefferson County approved issuing debt up to $36 million to fund this project. On September 14th, 2021, an initial $8 million in debt was issued. As part of the 2022 budget process, $7 million of the American Rescue Plan Act funds were allocated toward heating, ventilation, and cooling systems as authorized under the American Rescue Plan spending rules. Finally, an additional $2.6 million was allotted through the budgetary carryover process on March 8, 2022, to cover items such as technology, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. A total of $45.65 million has been allocated to date towards this project. Due to the final numbers impacted by inflation and other consideration, it is being recommended that an additional $3.5 million of American Rescue Plan Act dollars be reallocated towards this project, and $3.24 million of working capital be reserved towards this project. The proposed updated budget is attached as Exhibit B. Additional consultants have been engaged to provide technical expertise in certain areas. These include audiovisual consultants Pro Audio, which was recommended by the Wisconsin 3rd District Court, M&M Furniture to assist with furniture consultation, which is listed by the state of Wisconsin as a responsible cooperative bidder to provide services to local government in the state, and EMC to evaluate potential bidders and develop bid documents for abatement and remediation services. On July 25th, 2022, 19 bid packages were issued and were advertised through various forms to include the Daily Union, Dodge Reports, and the Jefferson County website, as well as various other methods of publications to reach as many prospective bidders as possible. Sealed bids were opened on August 11th, 2022 and August 16th, 2022. The Finance Committee and Buildings and Grounds Committee considered this resolution at a joint meeting on August 22nd, 2022, and approved an amendment to include alternate bids for skylights and a green roof at a cost of $269,906. By a 5-0 vote for the Finance Committee and by a vote of 4-1 by the Buildings and Grounds Committee. The joint committee then considered the resolution as an attachment, voted unanimously to forward to the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors for approval. Fiscal note. The total cost for the courthouse, sheriff, and jail improvements projects is expected to be up to $49,959,475. This project will be funded by a combination of 2021A general obligation bonds in the amount of $8 million, 2022A general obligation bonds in the amount of $28 million, American Rescue Act Plan Act funding for $8,355, carryover funds designated by the Board of Supervisors on March 8th, 2020, an amount of $2,635,000, and a working capital fund balance in the amount of $3,239,381. The county board has appropriated $10,635 in the 2020 budget for this project, with the remainder of the project cost to be appropriated in the 2023 budget. No budget amendment or no budget adjustment is necessary. I recommend approval for this resolution.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lindell. Questions? Discussion? We'll take a roll call vote then.
We have 27 yes, 0 no, and 3 absent.
Thank you very much. The resolution passes. Takes us to item 12, Finance Committee. Mr. Jones, a resolution concerning disallowance of claim defend by town plans in regard to petition R 4379A-22.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution number 2022-31. A claim has been made against Jefferson County. The notice of circumstances and notice of claim have been reviewed by the county's insurance carrier, WMIC, and recommended for disallowance based on the finding that the county has no liability for this claim and did not violate the law when granting the rezoning petition. This resolution formally denies the claim filed against Jefferson County and directs the Corporation Council to give the claimant notice of disallowance. The Planning and Zoning Committee considered this resolution July 27, 2022, and the Finance Committee considered this resolution on August 3rd, 2022. Both committees recommend forwarded it to the County Board for approval. Fiscal note, this matter has been referred to the Wisconsin Municipal Mutual Insurance Company, WMIC, and will be resolved in accordance with the terms of the county policy. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Second. Second by Mr. Jekyll. Questions, discussion?
I have one, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I would like to ask Mr. Ward, Corporate Counsel, to explain why this is going through WMIC. Thank you.
As you know, most of the or all of the claims against Jefferson County, I refer to our insurance company. And before considering the claims substantively to settle or not, the common practice and based on my advice is to present these to the county board as soon as possible, because that has some legal implications. If the county board denies it, it reduces the time period which a claimant can sue Jefferson County. So that's why this is before the board tonight. And the normal practice is referring this to our insurance company to take a look at it. The relief being requested isn't monetary. They're not asking for money, which is significant, because if it's not asking for money, then our insurance policy normally doesn't apply. But as a matter of standard practice, whenever I get a claim, I refer it to our insurance company. They take a look at it and they give me some feedback. So that's why it's going to our insurance company, and I'm working with our insurance adjusters in reviewing this claim.
The questions? Discussion? All in favor of approving this resolution, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
The ayes have it. Item B, resolution considering the disallowance of claim for damages by Sunrise Trucking LLC.
Resolution number 2022-32. A claim has been made against Jefferson County for damages. The claim has been reviewed by the county insurance carrier, WMIC, and was recommended for disallowance based on the findings that the county has no liability for this claim and is not legally responsible for the alleged damages. This resolution formally denies the claim filed against Jefferson County and directs the Corporation Council to give the claimant notice of disallowance. The Finance Committee considered this resolution on August 3rd, 2022, and recommended forwarded to the County Board for approval. Fiscal note, this matter has been referred to Wisconsin Municipal Mutual Insurance Company, WMIC, and will be resolved in accordance with the terms of the county policy. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Second. Second by Mr. Jekyll. Discussion, questions? Seeing none, voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. That's by voice vote. Resolution granting property X easement to Deposit Telephone Company Incorporated, TDS Telecom.
Resolution number 2022-33. Jefferson County is the owner of a vacant parcel of land located on Sherwood Lane in the city of Jefferson. Parcel identification number 241-0614-1512-001, which adjoins and is directly west of the Jefferson County Workforce Development Building. See attached Exhibit A. Jefferson County was contacted by TDS Telecom requesting a permanent access easement over this property for the purpose of obtaining equipment and accessories for the operation of its telecommunications system. The easement area measures approximately 15 feet by 15 feet, and the consideration provided to Jefferson County for granting the easement will be $5,000. This easement will give the TDS the ability to expand internet service within Jefferson County and is consistent with the Jefferson County Strategic Plan, Comprehensive Plan, and the Broadband Forward Mission adopted by the Broadband Working Group and the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors. This resolution will grant Deposit Insurance Company Incorporated, TDS Telecom, the legal right to access the property described above. The Finance Committee considered this resolution at its meeting on August 3rd, 2022, and recommended forwarding to the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors to grant the requested access easement. Fiscal note, this resolution will result in Jefferson County receiving $5,000 as consideration for granting the easement. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Backman. Any questions, discussions? Supervisor Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If we approve this easement, then are we going to be maintaining the property or does TDS? Thank you.
There's a draft easement in place that I put together in coordination with TDS, and the requirement in the easement is that TDS maintains the property. No obligation on behalf of Jefferson.
Thank you.
Mr. Kennard?
Yeah, thank you. Is this above ground, underground, I guess, or what are they going to put there? Is it going to be a little box for, and maybe they could move it over to the corner of the property, so if you ever develop that, it wouldn't impede a driveway or a parking lot or anything?
Mr. Waymire?
It's going to be an above ground cabinet that will be kind of interface with the fiber coming in to provide a network out to the residents in the city of Jefferson. This is a rough space they would like it. We've asked TDS to develop the final plat of easement for our final approval, so that's approximate location. We will ask them to tuck it in as far as they can though, going forward.
Yeah, I just think the closer it would get to the right-of-way lines there in the corner, the less intrusive, it'd be in a setback or whatever.
Yeah, our goal is to try to just provide a really small exhibit of roughly where it is. It's about 15 foot by 15 foot space is what they're looking for.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes by voice. D, resolution providing for the sale not to exceed $28 million of general obligation county building bonds, Series 2222A.
Resolution number 2022-34. Whereas on August 10th, 2021, the County Board of Supervisors of Jefferson County, Wisconsin, the county, by a vote of at least 3/4 of the members elected, adopted an initial resolution, authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds or promissory notes in the amount not to exceed $36 million for the public purpose of paying the cost of county building projects consisting of the construction of additions to and renovation of the courthouse, sheriff's office, and jail facilities, construction of related improvements, and acquisition of furnishings and equipment, collectively the projects. And whereas the County Board of Supervisors hereby finds and determines that the projects described in the initial resolution are within the county's power to undertake and therefore serve a public purpose, as that term is defined in Section 67.04, Sub 1, Sub B, Wisconsin statutes. And whereas on October 28, 2021, the county issued its $8 million general obligation county building bond series 2021 pursuant to the initial resolution to finance a portion of the project. And whereas the County Board of Supervisors of the county has now determined that it is in the best interest of the county to issue additional general obligation bonds pursuant to the initial resolution to finance the remaining portion of the projects. Fiscal note, this resolution enables the funding of the remainder of the courthouse, sheriff, and jail improvement project. Currently, the board has appropriated $10,635,000 for this project in the 2022 budget. The remainder of the project costs and funding will be included in the 2023 budget. No budget adjustment is necessary. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Second.
Second, who is the second? Supervisor Backlund, second. Questions? Discussion? Supervisor Morris.
I'm just seeking clarification, so. Back on the blue sheet, you said, 8 million general obligation bonds. Then you said 28 million. And then you said 8.3 carryover. That's different from the previous 8 million. Is that correct? The 8.3?
So the 8 million was issued last year, in
Right.
fall of last year. The 8.35 million is out of the American Rescue Plan Act dollars that we received.
Good, okay, but that's different from the previous 8 million.
Correct.
Okay, so then 2.6 million work, right?
Yep.
And then 10.6 million.
So the 2.635 million was presented to the board as part of our carryover budget process in May and March of this past year.
Right, right.
And so that's where that number comes from. So the 10.635 million then is a combination of that 2.635 million plus the original 8 million of bond appropriation.
Okay, so it's not an additional.
It's not an addition. It's a total. And we're just putting.
I added those all up and I mean, it took a lot of fingers. It didn't come up to 49. And that's because there was overlap there in those millions.
Yes, sir.
There was millions of overlap.
Yes, sir.
So then on the 36 million, and 36 million doesn't show up in here. Can you explain where 36 million and how that offsets?
So when you go through a process of issuing debts, especially a project like this, you do this initial resolution that basically caps that total where you start at. That was the initial resolution that took place last year of up to $36 million. That resolution is referenced in here that needs that required 3/4 vote because it's significant. Right. We're issuing debt, right? After that initial resolution takes place is we move forward with actually the sales of the bonds. And Joe can correct me if I'm wrong since he's on here. But we already issued the initial debt of 8 million last year. We set the sale price of that. So now we have a total capacity that's allowed based on the actions already taken of only $28 million. So what we're asking tonight is the remainder of that debt from the initial resolution of $36 million, 36 minus that 8 is at $28 million. And that's what we're asking to be authorized to be sold tonight. So total of $36 million. We're not exceeding that.
Any other questions, discussion? We'll do a roll call vote.
We have 27 yes, 0 no, and 3 absent.
Thank you. Resolution passes. Takes us to the final resolution from the Finance Committee, resolution to contract the U.S. Bank for Investment Custodian Services.
Resolution number 2022-35. Jefferson County invests funds not required for immediate cash flow needs in accordance with Wisconsin Statute 66.0603 1M and its own investment policy. The county hires 2 firms to assist with its investments, an investment manager, which provides direction and assistance with determining the highest yielding investment that match cash requirements according with statute and policy, and an investment custodian, which is an independent third party that holds the investments that are recommended for purchase. The custodian produce monthly statements that measure the cost and market value of the investments. Upon discovering a reporting error in the monthly investment statements received from its current investment custodian, county administration decided to seek requests for proposals for investment custodial services. Jefferson County received 2 proposals from qualified service providers. 2 staff members reviewed the proposal to determine which firm should be awarded the contract based on criteria such as cost, proposal requirements, experience, and audit approach. The Finance Committee considered this resolution on August 3rd, 2022, and recommended forwarding to the County Board to approve contracting with U.S. Bank for investment custodial services. Fiscal note, the cost of the custodial services are estimated to be approximately $6,700 for the 2022. The county treasurer's budget contains adequate funds for this service. No budget adjustment is necessary. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Second for Mr. Christensen. Discussion, questions? Supervisor Brogler.
Am I safe in assuming that the 2 bids are not of the company that we had the error with?
That is accurate, sir.
Any other questions? All in favor of this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, resolution passes, which takes us to Human Resources Committee. Mr. Brogler, resolution amending the civil service ordinance for full-time and part-time deputy services, deputy sheriffs, detectives, sergeants, captains, and chief deputy.
A clarification, it's not a resolution.
Oh, it's an ordinance.
It's an ordinance. And what you have in your packet contained is the clean copy, but I believe at your desk there's also a marked up copy which records all of the changes and updates throughout the various committee meetings over the past couple of months. And it's ordinance number 2022-8, which is amending the civil service ordinance for full-time and part-time deputy sheriffs, detectives, sergeants, captains, and chief deputies. And I will not read it all, and therefore I move for passage of this ordinance.
Second.
Second by Meg Turville. Okay. Questions? Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the ordinance passes. Item 14, Parks Committee. Mr. Christensen, resolution is authorizing county administrator to enter into a contract with KL Engineering to complete design, permitting, and engineering for Phase 2 of the Jefferson County Interurban Trail Project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have resolution number 2022-36, which is the last resolution of the evening. Jefferson County Parks Department is continuing construction of a multi-use recreational trail on a utility right-of-way owned by We Energies. The proposed trail is 10.96 miles long and is located on the former interurban rail line between the city of Watertown and the city of Oconomowoc. The path cross-section will consist of a 10-foot wide asphalt surface with 2-foot wide aggregate shoulders. The project includes 10 miles of trail within Jefferson County and 1 mile of trail in Waukesha County. The city of Watertown and the city of Oconomowoc are the project boundaries. The trail will act as an extension of the Lake Country Trail and connect to the city of Pewaukee. Phase 3 of this project includes a 3-mile section of the trail from County Highway F in Ixonia to the Jefferson County line. The Jefferson County Parks Department is seeking to complete design and engineering on Phase 3 of this project by March of 2023 in order to be eligible for upcoming funding opportunities through the bipartisan infrastructure law and Wisconsin DOT grant programs targeting alternative transportation projects. A request for qualification was completed. 12 firms were directly contacted and 2 firms responded with proposals. The Jefferson County Parks Department is seeking to move forward with design and engineering services on phase 3 of the Interurban Trail Project with KL Engineering based on its previous services in phase 3 of the previous experience with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation and federal transportation alternative grants, as well as its experience working on projects with We Energies.
The Parks Committee considered this resolution at its meeting on August 15th, 2022, and recommended forwarding to the county board to authorize the county administrator to enter into a contract with KL Engineering to provide design and engineering services on Phase 3 of the Interurban Trail project. You have the body of the resolution before you. The fiscal note. The total contract amount shall not exceed $219,330. The Jefferson County Board of Supervisors appropriated $750,000 in carryover funds on March 8, 2022 as initial seed money grant matching for the Phase 3 of the Interurban Trail. No budget adjustment is necessary. Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption of this resolution.
A second by Mr. Gulag. Questions? Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, resolution passes. Planning and Zoning Committee, report on approval of positions. Supervisor Jacob.
Report to the honorable members of Jefferson County Board of Supervisors. Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Committee, having considered petitions to amend the official zoning map of Jefferson County, filed for public hearing held as a requirement pursuant to Wisconsin statutes, notice thereof having been given and being duly advised of the wishes of the town boards and persons in the affected area, hereby makes the following recommendations. Approval of petition R 4418A-22 and R 4419A-22, dated this 25th day of July 2022. Blaine Paulson, Secretary. And that moves on to ordinance number 2022-9. Whereas Jefferson, amending the official zoning map, whereas Jefferson County Board of Supervisors has heretofore been petitioned and to amend the official zoning map of Jefferson County, and whereas petitions numbers as listed were referred to the Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Committee for public hearing on July 15, 2022, and whereas proposed amendments have been given due consideration by the Board of Supervisors in open session, now therefore be it ordained Jefferson County Board of Supervisors does amend the official zoning map of Jefferson County as followed, as listed. Mr. Chairman, I move for passage of ordinance 2022-9.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Backlund. Questions? Discussion? Mr. Kennard.
I need to abstain for potential conflict of interest.
Duly noted. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the ordinance passes. Takes us to resolution adopting a public participation plan for amending the Jefferson County Comprehensive Plan and Agricultural Preservation and Land Use Plan. Item C.
Resolution number 2022-37. And Mr. Christensen, just to be nice, there is one more resolution. The Department of Agricultural Trade and Consumer Protection, DAPCAP, recently reviewed the Jefferson County zoning ordinance maps for certification with compliance with Wisconsin Statute Chapter 91 Farmland Preservation. During review, it was determined that there was discrepancy existed between the county zoning ordinance map and the county's farmland preservation plan and the comprehensive plan. Specifically, 2 natural resource zones exist within a 15-year growth area in the town of Sullivan. The natural resource zone is a certified farmland preservation zoning district and can only exist within the farmland preservation planning area. This resolution corrects the farmland preservation plan mapping by incorporating the natural resource zone area around to allow the county zoning ordinance to be certified as farmland preservation zoning ordinance. The Planning and Zoning Committee considered this resolution on July 25th, 2022, and recommended forwarding to the Board of Supervisors to adopt the attached public participation plan to amend the Jefferson County Comprehensive Plan and Agricultural Preservation and Land Use Plan, also known as the Farmland Preservation Plan. Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption of this resolution.
Do I have a second? Second by Supervisor Richardson. Discussions, questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes. That leads us to item 16, appointments by the county board chair. By virtue of the authority vested in me under section 5954, parent 8, I request the confirmation of the following appointment to local emergency planning committee, Andrew Kaler, emergency preparedness representative for indeterminate term. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Brogler. Questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, he is appointed. Appointment of the Human Services Board. Mr. Jones.
By the virtue of authority vested in the Human Service Board under Section 3.06, Sub 1, Sub G of the County Board Rules, the Human Service Board hereby requests County Board confirmation of the following appointment. Mary Roberts, Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, for a 3-year term ending July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Morris, second by Mr. Backlund. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mary, for accepting. Which takes us to public comment of a general nature. Mr. Jeff Smith.
Did you recognize me? Okay.
Thank you,
Mr. Chair. My public comment is on our public comment. It's something I would like to see on our agenda each month is an open discussion on county business. And I don't know why we should have to, if you want to say something in public comment where you're limited to 3 minutes. An example of this was number 9 on our agenda. I meant to ask our administrator, and I didn't get my hand up fast enough, is we take $10 million out of our budget. What kind of impact is that going to have on things like perhaps giving our employees a cost of living adjustment? You know, it might give me another chance to ask that. This last week, I listened to the Home Consortium meeting and I listened to the Building and Grounds meeting. And maybe there would be something I heard that I could say one committee should have better communication with the other or somehow talk about county business that would be helpful to the county. 2 months ago, somebody made a public comment about guns and a supervisor wanted to make a comment and he was told not to. And I have to wonder why that supervisor wasn't entitled to their 3 minutes of public comment. To me, they should have been able to make their comment. And just like many people here, I suffered through that meeting on CAFOs. And I have to ask, when it turns into a bunch of cows or pigs or the farm actually gets back in operation and it's 6 million chickens, you know, whose backyard is next? That as I read state law and what is allowed by our ordinances, you know, the only thing I can see is agricultural related. And somehow I think we need to talk about what we can do so this doesn't happen again, or at least we're more prepared when it does happen. I know the castle is coming up in front of zoning again, and I would hope that they at least issue a conditional use permit with a sunset clause so we could address any neighbors' issues to see if they have a valid concern. And I just want to know that nobody would argue that a house built in 2020 was a barn built before 1970, but I hope as things go forward, we don't ever have to go through this again and that there's something in zoning to do a check and balance so that we don't even take an application that doesn't fit the criteria. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That takes us to announcements. County Board tablet updates.
So, like everything in technology, right? The current software system for the meeting app, correct, has to be updated. And so the easiest thing to do is we're asking if you can leave your tablets tonight with John, our MIS director, and the team will get those updated and make sure they're operational, and then we'll get these back to you. If you have some needs for it, just let us know and we'll talk through alternative ways to do it. So please let us do that if we can. And then if we need to find alternative ways to do it, we'll work with you on that because I know those machines are used for a few things with you day to day. But the whole system has to be updated, and that's probably the easiest way to make sure it works. The only other announcement too, on your desk, it's in small print, but my eyes can still kind of read it, is our schedule for upcoming finance committee meetings on the budget, or also known as public hearings. Approximate times departments will appear in front of the finance committee. So if you have an interest, there'll be in person and by Zoom as well to participate. Please do. I also sent an email today. We're going to host a little county budget 101 next Friday for those who haven't been through this process or some who need a refresher on our process a little bit. But we'll do it 10 o'clock in this room. Our goal is really talk through the various things that we have to look at as we prepare the budget, revenue streams, how we look at that, look at capital budget, talk through, to Mr. Smith's point, what we look at operational budget versus capital versus one-time revenue to make sure we're trying to work through all those various priorities we got to work through. So I'm just going to open conversation of the next steps in September, October, November that you'll be looking at as a county board with the budget. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Then I have a couple of announcements. One thing I want to make sure goes in the record that Mr. Drainer was excused tonight. He wanted to try to Zoom the meeting, but he didn't have good connections where he was at, so he was excused. He let me know this before the meeting. Two, I want to thank Mr. Milkey. If you see that he is not here tonight, he has moved out of his district and has resigned his position. And Mr. Morris was gracious enough to let me know that he found a house that he always liked, and he had to snap it up as fast as he could the way the housing market is. So we will need to appoint for that position. And lastly, there's Brew with a View, I believe yet on August 25th. And I want to let you know that I drove down Highway S tonight, and it's being redone, and I talked to all of the workers there on the way over here, and they said they'll have it ready by Brew with a View. There may not be lines on the road, so don't be trying to pass, but they said all the pavement will be done, so I hope you can make Brew with a View on the 25th of August out at Court Park. That's all the announcements I have. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn and a motion to set, and, quick comment? Pick them up in Audrey's office. They will be ready by Thursday afternoon, so please leave your tablets tonight here on the front desk. Do you need you don't need the chargers, okay. Okay.
Aye.
All in favor of adjournment, say aye. 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 Opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.